arena, you were here to be famous. I said, he said what? He said, my friends, my Watchaholics, today's going to be a very different video. As you can see, I am not in my normal studio. I don't have my normal mic, so I'm sorry if this audio isn't going to be the best, but I'm working with what I got. I literally have the funniest little tripod set, but I'm in Florida, and this is the Florida edition of the Love is Blind finale reunion recap. Y'all, I have so much to say. I've got about 6, 7, 8 pages of what this recap was. Now, this recap was, not recap, excuse me, this reunion was long AF. Like, this was really long. It was like an hour and a half. And for those of you who don't know, which I'm pretty sure you do know, I did a live last night. We were going to do the reunion, watch it together, chat about it. Obviously, we all know that Love is Blind broke the internet, broke Netflix. Did not happen. I think it went on, it was supposed to come on at 8. I waited until about 9 o'clock with everyone who was with me in my little live. And then it turns out about around 9:15 was when the actual reunion happened. Now, I will say, I had a really lovely time with all of you who joined me in my live, so thank you. But this recap is going to be a long one because I got thoughts. I've got lots to say. Some good stuff, some surprising stuff, a lot. This reunion, also, who knew that this reunion, the person that was going to be bringing the tea was going to be our newly bearded man, Zach. He had lots to say at this reunion, and I have lots to say too. So let's just get into it. Let's start this off, shall we? Okay. So starts off with so Jackie and Josh are not here. Yep, that's right. They decided that they were not going to be there, but we will get into them later. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. We have Arena, who will be coming. She is not there at the start, but she does show up. And okay, so yeah, so we start off with a little, finding out as everyone's still together. We find out that all of the couples that got married are in fact still together. Not gonna lie, I was shooketh. I mean, many people thought that Kwame and Chelsea were not going to be together, but boy, were we wrong. We were very wrong because they look very happy together on this couch. A lot happier than I expected. I think for the first time ever, it actually looked like Kwame was comfortable and happy to be there. There was none of that weird, like, remember Colleen at the last reunion, how weird she looked? There was none of that. Everybody who was married was happily married. I could see it in their body language. I could see the way they were talking about each other. I said, okay, we had some growth, and I'm here for it. So yeah, everyone is still together. We talk about Brett. Brett is wearing a custom suit, he's wearing a custom suit. He is bougied up. He is excited. He is happy to be there. They start off with replaying the clip of Tiffany, obviously sleeping, but it was funny because the way they brought that in was making it seem like they were going to show us what happened in the bridal suite, because remember at the wedding there was this really funny clip with Tiffany saying like, what did she say? She was like, oh, like, let's go to the bridal suite, basically like, let's go, to the side, but so they were like, yeah, so we have special footage of this, and I was like, we have special footage of what happened in the bridal suite. And Tiffany's like, what? And it turns out they were just messing with us. They basically just showed the clip of Tiffany sleeping and Brett walking out. So that was really funny. We find out that Tiffany actually didn't remember what happened before. The only thing she remembered was telling Brett that she loved him and just feeling so free and expressed that she was like, oh, thank God I got that off my chest. That she just fell asleep because his voice was soothing, and she did not remember anything that happened after that. And according to sources there, she fell asleep for about 20 minutes. So yeah, she took a power nap. This wasn't like a little she slept for about 20 minutes. Marshall, we go into Marshall discussing about how he was the one, he likes to call himself responsible for their pairing, because at a point Marshall was, I guess, dating Tiffany. I guess they didn't really highlight that, but he was dating Tiffany, and then he was like, well, I don't think she's, the one for me, but he had gotten to know Brett really, really well, and he felt like Tiffany really complimented him and was like, hey, I think you should go for Tiffany. I think she's the woman for you. And boy, she was, because they are happy. Guys, they barely even talked to Tiffany and Brett, because their story was just so like, everybody else had so much to talk about that Brett and Tiffany were barely touched upon. And I was fine, because, I mean, what else were they going to say? Yeah, we're very happy. So, yeah. Brett talks about his favorite memory of his time with Tiffany, and he says his favorite memory was the dinner where he showed her the portraits. And we found out that Brett actually lives in Portland. He doesn't live in Seattle. So it turns out that day when Tiffany was all crying and all that stuff, like, I think he ended up driving the 2 hours to Seattle, helping her, then having to go back to work, to go back to Seattle to plan the whole dinner. And I was like, winner. This man is a winner. Oh my God. But yeah, I don't know. Did you guys know that Brett lived in Portland? Because I don't think they touched upon it. I think Brett even said, like, I don't think they touched upon this, but I live in Portland. So yes, we do find out that Tiffany did indeed, she relocated to Portland. So yay for compromising, right? We learn about Kwame and Chelsea's photo shoot, which I would like to never see again, but we do learn about that, and we do learn that supposedly this was had been one of Chelsea's like biggest things, and that they actually had a date in the pods where she bought him Calvin Klein underwear, and then he went back to the room and changed, and they had their whole date in Calvin Klein underwear. I was like, interesting. To say that, like, for the longest time in your life, you've been wanting to have this photo shoot. An interesting woman. She's a very interesting woman. She's obviously a very sexual woman as well. You could tell that she was very much so. So then this is when we get, okay, from here on out, I'm just going to focus on at the couples in general, and how, the way I'm going to do the rest of this recap is I'm pretty much going to talk about what happens with each couple. Basically, we're gonna go that way and just kind of try to do like a summary, but really talk about our feelings, because a lot of stuff was really dished out. So they show off, we're getting into Chelsea and Kwame, and obviously the triangle with Micah, and they show a never before seen clip. Now y'all, this scene that they showed, it almost looked like that was filmed on purpose. It almost looked like it was like filmed like a movie. Like, this is a scene in the movie. It didn't seem natural at all. But basically, it was a time when they were in Seattle, and what's her name? Micah and Chelsea are walking their dogs, and then they just randomly run into each other while doing that, and they start talking about how they just got in, and they talk about Mexico, and Micah talks about what happened and how it was like, she said it's an inappropriate moment, and you know, they basically make peace. Like, they're just like, okay, like, I'm sorry, like, I apologize that it came across like that. Like, literally, like, I know that it looked wrong because, you know, he just came to tell me how he felt about how that was an inappropriate comment that I made about the proposal joke. And then it just ended up being like, we just started talking, and then I can understand how from afar that looked wrong. Now, guys, from afar, I can understand that, right? But we also saw what the conversation was. And I still think that the conversation was pretty inappropriate, like what was said. But beyond that, supposedly Chelsea had known what happened in the conversation, and Kwame had mentioned it. So they go and ask Chelsea how she felt after actually rewatching the show and rewatching those scenes. And, you know, obviously she says she was very uncomfortable watching it. But at this point, her and Micah had resolved everything already. So there wasn't really much to like go off. Like, obviously it was uncomfortable, but she felt like, you know, we're good. And then this is when Kwame decides to, you know, have his 2 cents. He says that he would like to, number one, apologize to Chelsea and say that was incredibly inappropriate, and he takes accountability for his actions, and that conversation should not have happened, and what was said should not have happened, and that he will never ever do that again, and that he is just so sorry, and he apologizes to her. He then goes on to apologize to her family, saying that, you know, what was represented on screen wasn't what he wanted them to see, that, and he wants them to know that he really does love their daughter, or really loves Chelsea, and that not to look at that and think that that's not true, because he does truly love her. And he goes on to, just completely talk about how he accepts responsibility for his actions and for what he had said. Now, my thoughts on this. And people might disagree with me, which is fine. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But for the first time, I actually really believed him. I'm not gonna lie, I believed him. I can see in his body language and the way he was talking to Chelsea and how they interacted with each other. I really did see a love there. I really did see how he said that his ego got in the way, and that was not the way that it should have been, and he apologizes, and I actually believed it. I for the first time actually believed. Sorry, birds were going off on me. Yes, I know. I believe Kwame. I know. I believed him. But yes, I actually did believe Kwame. Let me know in a comment below what you thought about his apology and his body language, because I think it did look a lot better than what we had seen for most of the season, where it looked like he was not interested in her at all. Chelsea does go on to say about how she felt like, when they were showing all those things about Kwame, was that they were really trying to push a narrative. And this goes into the whole reunion and what a lot of people had to say. And, also as viewers and what we see. I know that what I'm watching is only a little bit of what's really going on. And it is true. This is produced TV. This is meant to make people look a certain way. It is meant to push a narrative so that the viewers can see these people in a certain light. Obviously, no one wants to be pictured as the villain. But at the end of the day, this is a Netflix show. This is a production. They're trying to push a narrative. With that, I do agree with Chelsea. Quiet! They're taunting me. And so then they just say that everything that happened, she felt very strong about their relationship, but after watching everything unfold, has made them stronger than they ever were. So, happy for you. Happy for you both. Then we have Chelsea, then Kwame is asked if they met Kwame's mother. And yes, Chelsea has met her. She met her Thanksgiving, brought her in with open arms, and was very happy. I wish they actually talked about that a little bit more, because I'm like, okay, well, so then why was she so resistant at first? Like, what was the deal? I think I would have liked if they really talked and asked Kwame those questions a little bit more. Yeah, I felt like they kind of skimped on that, but I really would have liked Kwame to talk more about his relationship with his mom and why she was so, not accepting of it at first. We found out that Barbara, his sister, is not a paid actress. So to all of those who thought that she might have been, I don't know where these rumors come from, yay. Yay. Barbara is not a paid actress. I never thought that, but yay, winners for that. So that is the end of the Chelsea and Kwame Micah love triangle. Was Micah held responsible too much? No, I think she should have been a little bit more pressed on the things that she said about her comments, because there were some comments that I thought were inappropriate, like how she was saying she was gonna choose Kwame, and then all of a sudden it was no, I'm not. Then there was this other thing about Kwame saying also about his relationship with Micah, about how he was gonna break up with her first and all this stuff, and I'm like, again, pushing the narrative, but I do feel like that's not the way it looked on screen. It didn't, he was literally crying. He was so upset when Micah broke up with him first. And Kwame did say, oh, well, it was just the initial reaction. Everyone's going to be hurt. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but I do believe that he is happy with Chelsea. He does look a lot happier, and I'll take that. I'll take that as a win. So then moving on to Zach and Bliss. And this section, Zach had lots to say. He had a lot to say, and man, oh man, let's get into it. So Zach talks about this, they talk about the song that they danced to and how yay, it was so pretty. It was a beautiful moment. I'm glad they got to do their thing. Zach talked about how the song actually really symbolized their relationship and how he really was afraid to fail in this relationship, and how he was scared that this relationship would fail if someone said no at the altar. He was pretty emotional. I think Zach is someone who is a very emotional man, but he never actually fully just lets go and cries. But you can see there's so much emotion behind his eyes. There's so much that he is conveying with his eyes that I think is nice to see. And obviously Rena was freaked out that he looked at her so much, but there is a lot to say behind those eyes of his, and you can tell when he is very emotional, but it's just not fully like, you know, but he is always like at the brink. I feel like always is at the brink. These damn freaking dogs.
Again. A fucking again.
Then we find out that the dad did come around and he's now best buds with Zach, and that he's actually going to pay for their honeymoon to Panama. So glad to hear that. I'm happy. You know, Bliss just does say, like, you know, my dad wants the best for me. He does come around, and he trusts me. I'm like, well, girl, he didn't look like he trusted you on that show. He did not look like he trusted you even a little bit. He did not look like that at all. So I don't know. But, yeah, supposedly he did come around, and he's best buds with Zach, and they're always chatting it up. So, yay. Then Arena is there, magically. She just shows up. She's there now. Then Arena, the behavior between Arena and Micah is discussed. They kind of show the clips of Arena laughing and Micah laughing and all these things. I'm glad they showed it. Did they hold Micah accountable enough for it? No. They really went in on Arena like hardcore in this section. Did she deserve it? Absolutely. But I don't think that they went in on Micah enough. I think they just focused on her when I think that Micah was the ringleader in this. Arena was the Gretchen, and I don't know. I didn't like that they didn't kind of hold Micah accountable enough for it. But Arena does talk about how watching it back was very painful, and she apologizes, and she was just felt so awful to see that that's how she was portrayed, because that's not how she really wanted it to come. But she was, you know, she kept talking about her mental health and how that was a big factor in the way she was acting. Now, people have issues. Life ain't easy. You're going into this experiment. There's a lot going on. She was bullied as a kid. Who knows how she, you know, is perceiving things, and she has lots of growing to do. And Bliss does mention this at some point. But, and someone mentioned this, I was reading comments earlier, and someone did say, like, oh, well, I feel that, like, she kept talking about her mental illness, but not wanting to use it as an excuse, but still kept bringing it up. At the end of the day, she apologized. Like, what else can we ask from these people? Like, we understand, like, what you did was wrong. You apologized. What else do we want from this girl? What else can we say? Like, yeah, go and do the work, and you gotta move on with your life. We all have to move on. This is a show. You were portrayed horrifically on TV. You grow from it, be a better person, and that is it. There's not much more we can say. Yeah, we can say things, but at the end of the day, like, what is us complaining more about the fact that she was, okay, I get it. Yeah, she was using her mental health as an excuse without wanting to use it as an excuse, but she still apologized. She's had her piece. She knows what she did was awful, was wrong. I don't know what else to say in regards to that. Bliss tells Arena that she hopes she can grow from this experience. And this whole time, Zach is just in there. And I can tell that Zach was not happy, and that he had a lot that he wanted to spill. He had a lot that he wanted to say, and boy did he. He can't even look at her in the eye while she's talking. But, you know, Rena continues to claim that Zach was not the right one for her, but she did feel in that moment, in the end, he wasn't the right person for her, but in the moment, out of the people she was dating, he was, on paper, the best man for her, and that is why she decided to say yes to his proposal. She really thought he was the one. And she picked him for a reason, and she was very happy. And then she continued to talk about how she was very happy to see that it worked out with Bliss, and that she loves to see that Bliss loves him for all the reasons that Rena couldn't really see. And, you know, with the whole things that she didn't like about Zach, Bliss clearly loves about him, and she's happy about the incident. She's been very happy to see their journey and that they're together, all this stuff. And then Vanessa Lachey decides to ask Zach if he believes that Irina ever loved him, or Irina really wanted to choose him, and he just says, no. I said, yeah, he spilled the tea. He said, no, I don't believe it. And I also believe, I truly believe this in my heart, that Irina, you were here to be famous. I said, he dropped it. He said what? He said, you were here to be famous. And guys, he went on to say some stuff that I will say, I wanted more context. I need more context, and I want some receipts from Sir Zachary. I don't know if his name is Zachary, but I'm gonna call him Zachary. Because he said some stuff. We got it sprinkled, alluded, but didn't go completely into the tea. Kind of reminded me of Sal season 2. Sal season 2 or season 3? No, season 3. Kind of reminded me of Sal from season 3 when he at the reunion kind of alluded to some weird things with Mallory, but didn't really say. I felt that's kind of what Zach was doing, and I wanted more. He was spilling some tea, but I wanted it to really be spilled, like really be spilled. But he continues to say about how what we saw was only about 1% of the stuff that she actually did. What else did she do? He's saying about how bad he treated her, or she treated him, and that we only saw 1% of it. And after he does say, like, she went on the show to be famous, he was like, but I do forgive you, and I hope the world does too. And then he goes into this thing where I was like, can you show me the receipts? Because I was very confused. He said, the only truth I'm going to say, or the only truth that I believe is, like, what I said on my Instagram today. I said, oh my God, I'm not on Instagram anymore. Maybe I should, just so I could talk about this stuff. Because there are some things that I was so confused about. I said, what did you say on your Instagram today? I have no idea. Like, I have no idea. But he said, oh, I have receipts. I said, okay, well, if you have receipts, can we show them, please? I'd like to see it, please. I'd like to see these receipts. Because I don't... What? Excuse me? Irina then continues to talk about how it didn't feel right when she saw him, that she didn't feel safe. And she's like, not in a way that I felt like he was going to hurt me, but she just didn't feel good around him. Then we find out some real dish. We find some real dish here. We find out some dish that supposedly when Irina got off the plane in Mexico, I guess when she was coming home, she messaged Bliss and said, hey girl, you dodged a bullet. But then also texted Zach and was like, oh, I hope it works out with Bliss. Well, see, this is the behavior. This is when the whole, like, it doesn't match. You're like, I didn't want to do anything malicious, but then you're doing malicious things. And Bliss calls that out, which I said, yes, Bliss. Thank you for calling that out. She said, it's been over a year and I don't want to talk about this really anymore. She's saying, oh, I understand that there was, like, mental, if you were going through something, like, through your mental health, like, I understand that. And that shouldn't be an excuse, but, like, I understand it. But also, I don't know how you could say these things, but then also act so maliciously. So, as I said before, I just hope that you've seen your actions and that you will grow from them. And I'm like, Bliss, a queen. She's a queen, and she handled herself like a queen. And this is actually, I want to talk about how I actually really liked that about this reunion, was that I felt like everyone treated each other with, for the most part, with respect. There wasn't no ganging up on anyone. No one was ganging up on Paul, being like, how could you say that? Like, there was no this, like, girl boss mentality going on. Everyone kind of stuck to their person, and just, there wasn't all this added stuff like how the season freaking 3 reunion was, where everyone was just, like, attacking Cole. There was none of that. So then we move on into the Paul and Micah of it all. So they bring up the video where Paul said, Oh, they bring up the video with supposedly Paul slapping that the bridesmaid's butt, and then the girl being like, ooh. Paul says that's absolutely absurd that people are even thinking this. Like, that is absolutely not the case, and it's just absurd that people have really gone to the lengths to really think that that's what was going on. Like, I personally just was making my way out of the room and just excusing myself, and the fact that this has escalated to this point is kind of crazy. Hilarious. Then Vanessa does ask Micah, how she feels about everything that's going on, something like that along those lines. Micah just starts crying. Vanessa asked if she would have said yes if Paul would have said yes, and Micah just starts crying, and she's like, I need a moment, all this stuff. Micah says that she feels terrible because Paul said that he couldn't see her as a mom. Now, this has been a huge ordeal. A lot of people have talked about this in their recaps in the video, in the media, about when Paul was interviewed asking after the wedding why he said no, and he said he couldn't see her as a mother. And a lot of people have really have gone up in arms saying that, how could you say that? It's inappropriate, all this stuff. And that's why they asked Micah how she felt about it, and she said that she felt terrible because she and Paul had talked about a family and how important it was for her to have a family. I didn't know this about Micah, I did know she was an only child, but I didn't know supposedly she's a miracle baby because her mom wasn't going to be able to have children. So the fact that she was born, it is a miracle, and she's always wanted a family of her own. So to hear that Paul said she couldn't see her as a mother was so hurtful for her, and she just could not believe that he said that. They asked Paul about it. Paul said that he didn't mean it to really, be that way. And then Paul went into this whole section that, I'm not gonna lie, I have to agree with Vanessa and Micah. I was very confused. So the whole nurturing thing, he said that she wasn't nurturing, and then Vanessa was trying to understand, like, okay, well, what was it that she wasn't doing that wasn't considered nurturing to you? And he's like, well, there wasn't any actions, but it was just something I couldn't feel from her. It was something that should have been organic, and I wasn't getting that from her. And basically people wanted more examples or more understanding as to what he meant, but he just was like, I don't know, like, I can't really say it. I just felt like it should have been more organic. I shouldn't have to tell someone to be nurturing. And he said he apologizes for the way he said it. He didn't mean that she couldn't be a mom or that he couldn't see her as a mom. It just said that he felt that the nurturing aspect was missing, and that he personally couldn't see it, and he was hoping that it would grow into that, and that he would see it. But with the amount of time that they had before having to say I do, that emotion or that connection just wasn't there for him, which is why he had to say no in that time being. So I was a bit confused because he did kind of go in this weird scientist kind of way to really say anything. But Micah continues to talk about how she felt blindsided, that how come she didn't tell him this before the wedding? How come you didn't tell me that this was the big thing that was holding you back? Like, I would have liked if you would have just told me this is how you felt. And he says, like, how could I tell you that? How could I criticize you saying, like, oh, you're not nurturing enough? That wouldn't be fair to you. Like, that's something that you have, and if you don't have it, like, I can't force that upon you. It just wouldn't be fair and nice of me to be like, I need you to do this, I need you to be this person. If that's not who you are, I can't force that upon you. That has to be something that is organic. And with that, I guess I understand that aspect of it, that you don't want to make someone that they're not, because then they might resent you, which is what he was saying. He was like, I don't want you to resent me for making you be someone that I want you to be. If you're just not that person, that's just what it is. And then Zach has a little chime in. Zach had a lot of chime ins on this one. Zach said that Paul was torn. He spoke to him the night before, and he believes that Paul really did love Micah, but he just wasn't certain, and he wasn't confident enough in the relationship to say yes. But he did really, really think about it. They were up on the phone till like 2 a.m. talking about it and talking about decisions they were going to make. And then they go back into the more, like, basically what I had mentioned about how, he just didn't want to tell Micah, this is what you should be. Like, you should be this way. Then we talk about the famous Shelby, who I don't give a crap if she doesn't want you to be hurt. You don't laugh at your friend when they're crying going down the aisle. At the end of the day, that is wrong, 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 wrong. And Micah defended her, saying, that she had terrible delivery and she just didn't want her to be hurt no matter what, and she wants the best for her. I'm like, I don't care. No best friend of mine is going to be laughing while I'm crying after someone just said no to me in the altar, someone who I love. I don't care if you don't agree with that person. You don't go and laugh at your best friend, like kind of like a told you so, because that's basically what that was. That I will not forgive. Then we see this little moment where Zach kind of like whispers something to Paul while Micah's talking about Shelby. It's like there's like this little thing at the bottom and they talk about it, and Vanessa brings it up. She's like, all right, I don't want to say anything, but Zach, like, I saw you over there, you know, whispering something to Paul. What were you saying? You know? And she's like, I don't want to put you on the spot. She does. And he basically goes on to say that he thinks, again, Zach had a lot to say. Zach says that he felt that Paul was being attacked by Micah, and that he knows women who have told him personally that Micah had never said that she actually wanted to marry Paul, that she herself was not sure if she was going to even say yes. I said, oh, sir. Oh my God. He goes on to say that she was out for blood, and that's why she came here, saying that Mike was out for blood. And I don't think she was out for blood. I actually do believe that she was there for answers. She wanted to understand why Paul said no to her. I don't think Micah is an angel in this, and I don't think Paul's an angel in this. I do think they weren't right for each other at the end of the day, but I didn't think that she really came out for blood, because she didn't really come out and really do any receipts. Coming out for blood would have been what Zainab did to Cole when she was like, oh, you know, with the cutie story. That would have been coming for blood if Micah would have said, well, this wasn't aired, but Paul told me that I would be a perfect mother one day. You know, like, she didn't say that. That to me would be coming for blood. She was just saying, like, why didn't you tell me that I wasn't nurturing? So I have to disagree with Zach there. I don't think she really came for blood. I think she actually just didn't want answers. But yeah, that's the thing. And then we find out that Micah and Paul did try to date again after the weddings. He went to Arizona to visit her, but it pretty much ended after that again, and they just ended it. They were like, no, this can't go on. So yeah, now let's get into a big bulk of this episode as well, which was, of course, the infamous, or should I say famous, Jackie and Josh, who did not show up to this reunion. Why they did not show up? I'm pretty sure they just didn't want to be ridiculed on live TV and have everyone come at them. They were just trying to just be like, I don't want to be a part of it, because they were interviewed by Vanessa. But before that, they did show a little clip, which we had never really seen, because Josh was not really highlighted in the pod. So to me, Josh came out of nowhere where all of a sudden they started dating, that all of a sudden she was like into him. Because I'm like, they barely showed this guy in the pods. Like, what's the deal? But they did show a clip of them in the pods talking. And it's just funny because you just see Marshall just rolling his eyes throughout the whole interaction. Because there's a moment where Josh is like, you know, I'm not like that guy. I know you're talking to Marshall basically, but I'm not like him. I'm not like good with that. She's like, oh, you mean like you're not soft? And I was like, and okay. And then they go on to show the interview with Josh and Jackie, and this is the bullet points of what we got that. Number one, they're still together after a year. Jackie said that she's a completely different person now, so rewatching everything back, she just can't believe who that is. Like, that's not her anymore. It's a completely different person. She takes accountability for her words, but also hopes that Marshall can too. She clears up that, and this had come up a little bit after the scene had happened, but she clears up that she did not cheat, that she was broken up with Marshall by the time the cafe scene did happen. I mean, but still, at the end of the day, and Vanessa did say, you know, but still, like, you knew you were going to say no, so why didn't you have this conversation before the fittings? Like, why didn't you just tell Marshall no? We find out that Jackie and Josh are living together. They have a dog. Josh says, you know, he talks about his behavior at the party, where we all know he was a little a little bit drunk. He talks about how he was getting ready for a match. I think he wrestles. He was getting ready for a match, so he was like, his weight was fluctuating, or he was losing 6% of his weight or something. So basically, he just said, I had less weight to work with, and I was drinking too much. That's basically what he was saying. And then Jackie likes to, you know, she wanted to throw a little bit of dirt, a little bit of tea in there, and she said that the reason why Marshall wanted to keep the ring, which she still has, by the way, is because he wanted to propose to somebody else. I said, but really who? But really who? Who? I don't know. So, yeah, that whole time, throughout the whole interview, you just see, like, there's, like, the little box at the bottom where you're seeing Marshall's reactions, and he is just rolling his eyes. He's just like, what? Like, that's a lie. You know, like, kind of just very surprised at some of her answers. So then we just talk about Marshall in this moment. And a lot of people had a lot to say about the way Vanessa Lachey was handling this. They were saying that she was really trying to drag Marshall, that she was really, like, kind of agreeing with Jackie. I don't know, a lot of people don't like Vanessa Lachey. I personally don't give, my opinion about Vanessa Lachey is, like, I just think she's doing a job. At the end of the day, she is there to get paid. She is there to ask questions and ruffle some feathers. That is what she's there for. She basically hosts this show over Nick a million times over. So, it is what it is. But Marshall, you know, she asks Marshall, like, what do you want to say after what you've heard? And he says, you know, a lot of people are going to want me to be reactionary, but I'm not going to do that. I just want to give them their moment. And then he's also saying, like, you know, I also just saw everything for the first time. I can't really remember everything that was said. And Vanessa's like, all right, well, I'm going to tell you what she said. And she kind of goes bullet by point, just going through to see what he has to say about each thing she just said. Marshall goes on to talk about how he felt cheated about not having his moment to make a choice. Because at this, you know, Vanessa's saying, like, oh, do you know if you would have said yes? He said, well, you know, I know that I would have made it to the altar because I was really fighting for this. I really wanted this to work. Would I have said yes? I don't know. And that is why I feel very robbed, because I felt like I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a moment like everyone else to go up to the altar and really think about what my choice was going to be. Interesting take, but okay. Oh, and also in the video, Vanessa had asked, was there a moment you knew like this wasn't going to work? And Jackie mentioned that there was a derogatory word that he called her, and that was the moment, like, that they were joking, but then she didn't think it was that funny and all this stuff. And the derogatory word was never actually mentioned in the reunion, but basically it was, they were messing around, and there's like these leaked texts or something about Jackie saying some inappropriate things about Marshall that were supposed to be funny, so he thought it was funny, so he thought if she said something like how do I explain it? They basically thought they were joking with each other, and he just said, like, oh, well, you know, you got such a strong jaw, like, you have such a strong, you know, you hold your head up so high, you have a strong jaw, you could have been a man, or you could be a man for all I know. And she did not like that, which we already know what the derogatory word is. But he does say that he does take accountability. He felt really horrible in the moment afterwards for what he said, and he apologized, and he knew what he said was wrong. But he did not call her an actual derogatory word. That did not happen. He did not call her any names. And the whole, like, did he want to propose to someone else? He said that that is incorrect, that he wanted the ring because it was a symbol of their love and she did not deserve to keep it, which is what he said in the actual episode. He goes on to talk about the connection that he had with this girl named Keisha, which I think he talked about in another interview somewhere before this reunion, but he said that he went on one date with her and that he was connected to her in the pause, but after they went on one date, he decided that he wanted to just take time away from this whole thing, and he needed time away from it and just to separate himself from this world of Love is Blind. I mean, obviously the guy basically got broken up with after he poured out his heart, proposed to someone, and then they say no. I can totally understand why you're like, you know what, I need to take some time away. I'm not about this life right now. But he did say that he was connecting with this girl after, but it just didn't work out. So it's not like he's dating anyone. I don't know why Jackie had to say that, but there we go. Then Vanessa's like, oh, if there's something that you could say to Jackie, like, what would you say? And he's like, I'm talking to you guys, he's talking to the camera, and he tells Jackie that this whole me versus you thing needs to die because it's just causing more damage. He says that he does feel slighted with her not being there, but it is time to move on. And he tells the public also, he's like, I also want to direct this to the public. He says, I just want this needs to die. It's been a year. I've moved on. I'm happy. She's happy. Like, let's just move on. I think this, like, a lot of people on this season's reunion really made it clear that, like, hey, what you're seeing is only 1% of the whole story. There's a narrative that's being pushed. We need to move on. It's been a year. Stop going after people. Let's forgive people. You know, there was still, even though there was drama on the reunion itself, a little bit, some seed was spilled, some feelings were hurt, some feelings were still there. I think most people there were wanting to just really move on with their lives and just be like, all right, I was on this show. I was not portrayed right, but I'm trying to be better and I'm trying to move on. I think that was very much portrayed in this reunion, more than in any other reunion. So I liked that. So then after that, it's basically like, all right, let's talk about the happy couples again. And they show each couple that is married, like, their living situation and how they're doing. They show Brett and Tiffany's home. They show Kwame and Chelsea's apartment, which, by the way, whatever they do, they make money, because I know for a fact that apartment ain't cheap. Seattle, number one, is not cheap, and two, they had a freaking view of, like, the whole city, open windows. Nice place. Really, really nice place. They make money. We had Zach and Bliss's, a section with Zach and Bliss where they had, like, a montage of pictures of them and them being with hanging out with other couples and traveling together. And the only thing that made me sad was the fact that it was overshadowed by this Zach singing. Zach wrote a song for Bliss, and it was kind of a, like, song that was used throughout the whole montage. I'm like, this was literally me. I was like this watching. I was like, oh my God, is this over yet? Is it over? Is it over? Because is it over? Like, let's just not hear Zach singing. It's just not necessary. Why Netflix is making us watch this, I do not know. Kwame does talk about the whole ordeal about using the name Alex over Kwame, and he makes it completely clear that he is very, very proud of his name. He loves his name, Kwame, and that is not the case. The only reason why he was talking about the whole Alex thing was because he was talking to one of the producers, and the producers were just like, you know, we're trying to make this not, you know, so much about race and blood and all this stuff, so maybe that can be an option, is for you to use Alex, so that, or he started to think that maybe I should just use Alex so that people aren't judging me. It's not because I'm not proud of where I come from or I'm proud of my name. That is not the case. He even talks about how the scene when they showed it, that after he said the whole Alex thing, that he does say after, I'm very proud of my name, but that was cut out, that was not shown. So he's like, I want to make it perfectly clear that I am very passionate about my name. I'm proud of my name. It has nothing to do with that. And I'm like, I was never one of those people. I was just like, you do you. But a lot of people had problems when that scene occurred. Nick Lachey goes on to talk about, like, you know, what we as viewers see is very different to what each contestant or each person is going through and how they're experiencing, and they themselves are the only ones who know the truth, and that everyone here should live their truth because no one else was there. Only they know their experiences. And I will say, that is the thing about reality TV, that, you know, we talk about this on here. I love talking about this and coming up with, you know, what you see and your reactions and your thoughts. But there is a part of me that knows that, listen, this is a TV show. It is reality TV. There is a narrative. There is all these things that they're trying to make us believe and make us see. And there's so much filming, things that we do not see. So I understand that. And, you know, I liked that Nick Lachey was like, hey, everyone, live your truth. You know what you know the experience that you've been living. And then they have the audacity to show us a past person who went through the experiment. And I said, oh God, who is it? And of course it was Baptiste. I was like, why? I said, do not show us this man on screen, please. And we haven't talked about this, but Barchi's had a child. So he has his baby, and basically he had a question to ask, and the question was basically when is everyone here going to have children? Or who's planning on having children next? Who's going to do this? Blah, blah, blah. And look, this is the one thing I hate about when you get married, is that people automatically are assuming, okay, well, kids is next. That is the most annoying question to get asked. Oh, when are you going to have kids? It's a big thing. Because number one, we don't know if that person, we don't know what people's journeys are. There are so many people out there that, number one, struggle to have children. There are people who don't want to have children. And there are some people who literally just want to enjoy their marriage, and then when they get pregnant, it happens. Yeah, you can plan it, but that is not something that should be asked every freaking 5 minutes. It is so annoying. And that was the one thing that I took away from this, was the fact that Vanessa kept asking about who's going to give her the first Love is Blind baby. Girl, that is not your business, okay? And she goes through every couple asking, like, okay, so when are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? And it's just like, everybody literally said, we're just enjoying our marriage, and when time comes, we'll have kids. That's basically what everyone said. Because they just got married a year ago. Like, let them live their lives. All these people are still really young. They want to enjoy their life. They want to travel. When you have kids, things will change. You won't be able to just up and leave and do whatever you want. There's a lot. So, that is my thought on that. People are going through so many different points in their lives, and having children might not be at the forefront. So, but back to Barchis, just please, never again. Just never again. So that was that. That was the reunion. It ends up with a preview for the ultimatum, what is it called? Ultimatum Queer Love. So, I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of the ultimatum, so I don't know if I necessarily want to watch the ultimatum Queer Love, but that could be one of the next shows that I cover on the channel. So let me know if you'd be interested in me doing the ultimatum Queer Love. I probably am going to watch it no matter what, but if you want me to do some recaps, I can definitely do that for you. So let me know in a comment below. But yes, season 4, Love is Blind, officially done. What did you think of this reunion? Did you think this was, I did a poll, but let me know. Did you think this reunion was good? Do you think it was boring? What did you think? I personally enjoyed it. I thought everybody was explained what they needed to explain, held accountable, most of them, for what their actions, and there wasn't, what I liked the most about it was that there wasn't a gang mentality thing, like the let's just all go after Paul, let's go after Arena. Everybody just kept to themselves and said what they needed to say when it was their time. There was no crazy interrupting. There was no crazy ganging up on anyone. And I really liked that aspect. I was happy to see these couples still together. Kwame and Chelsea were a surprise, but they look very happy, and I wish them the best. You know, as you know, on this channel, I was never really a fan of Kwame. Well, I was at first, but then once we got to Mexico, things changed, and his body language just never read right. But I will say that in this reunion, I did see his body language a lot more comfortable, a lot more happy, and I did see that between every single couple. Obviously, I would have liked to see more Tiff and Brett. Let's talk a little bit more about their lives, but because they didn't really have drama, like, what were they going to talk? And also, they said that there were going to be fan questions. There were none, and I don't know if it's because of the whole 1 hour behind situation, but I was waiting for the fan questions. None of that happened. So, yeah, but those were my thoughts. Guys, this has been a pleasure covering this whole season with you. I cannot wait for Love is Blind Season 5, whenever that is, because we know it's probably filming right now. Very, very excited for that. But yeah, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you're new here and you'd like to subscribe, please click that subscribe button and join my Watchaholic family. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!